Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's Nuke, and today is Monday, January 14th, 2019. And I'm going to cover four tickers with you that are the lower priced ones, but they have a lot of movement this morning, kind of coming out of the blue. So we're going to start off, well, you know what? We should start off with the SPY, right? And the SPY, when we're looking at the daily, had kind of consolidated, but we see it flat topping here, right? And we're sandwiched between the 9 and the 20 and the 50. And being between the 9 and the 20 and the 50, that's putting some pressure on it. And then what happened is over the weekend, this thing is really sold down, right? Almost 2 points or a little over 2 points. So she's definitely got some pressure on her. Now this could result in one of two things. At the open, this thing could, you see how we're starting to get a little bit lower high, but we've also been steadily declining. So this thing might come out of the gate and drop and then pop up, or it might come out of the gate and squeeze really hard, hit resistance, and then come on back down. Either way, it's going to be exciting, right? So what are we looking at with how far it could go? Realistically, on the high side, we see resistance at around the 261.80, which puts us right here at the 50. The other numbers you're going to want to pay attention for resistance are going to be at the 260.43, 248.99. That was the pre-market high. That's the line in the sand it's going to have to break out. And then the halfway point between pre-market low and pre-market high is the 257.55. Now, if this thing's going to be on the downside, that's going to be a possible spot for it to bump its head on before it drops downward. Support-wise, where we're looking at it to catch ground, if it breaks to the low side, just to test before it pops up, we would be looking at around the 254.68 because that's just below where the 9 and the 20 are on the daily. However, if it bumps its head and then it wants to drop and like seriously go down today and following this other curve, then what we're going to be looking at is somewhere around the 253.24, possibly even the 251.79 where it's going to find resistance. And you can see how that plays out on this side of the chart as well, right? That'll be right about there. All right. So next up, we're going to look up IQ. Since that tells you what the day is looking like, we're going to look at some tickers. IQ, it was doing pretty decent. It had come back up. It's sandwiched between the 50 and the 9 and the 20 here, just like SPY is. But then over the weekend, it just started tanking, right? And where is it at currently? It's currently sitting right at where this resistance point is for the 9 and the 20 and the 50, or the 9 and the 20, right? So what are we looking at for IQ? Well, since it doesn't have quite the range these other ones do, on the high side, resistance would be at around the 1889, which is a bit above the 50. Your next spot below that would be the 1838. Pre-market high sets it at 1791. It would definitely have to get past that before it's going to go anywhere. Mid-range pre-market is going to be 1738-ish. And you can see where that fits neatly across these daily candles. Pre-market low is currently at 1682. If it snaps that, the next spot where it's going to find resistance at is going to be at the around 1630, right? And then the next spot below that is going to be around 1583. And you can see that candle clearly here. All right, but that's kind of what I'm looking at. Next up is going to be AMD. AMD, my devil darling. Wow. Oh, that's why. I didn't get the D in there. Sorry, guys. Needs the D. All right, so AMD had a recovery, slight pullback, had a green day on Friday, but we were still sandwiched here between the 50 and the 9 and the 20. So things are a little wompy, though. They're not exactly in the order they should be. So AMD is a little bit harder to judge. It did fall off like these other tickers over the weekend, but currently, the last couple of hours, it's setting in this higher low. So it might be doing that to bump its head on resistance and then falling down, or it might fall down out of the gate, catch its footing on some support, and then continue on up. Just not sure. You know, it's a little harder to read this one. But resistance to the high side, I'm looking at around $20.79, and you can see how that corresponds on the daily, right? Next step down would be the 2055, and this is a little more realistic to me just because you got a ton more resistance there. The 2030, that's where the pre-market high is, and that fits in neatly with the high of day from Friday. Mid-range of the pre-market is $20.06. You can see where that comes back a couple of weeks and ties in nicely. Pre-market low is at 1981. Great year, but you got good resistance here and here, and also recently that's the daily high of Thursday of last week. Then support wise, we're looking at 1956, which is the bottom of this candle over here. And then 1932, you're looking 31, 32-ish. You've got the wick here. Actually, is that halfway between the wick and the body there. So that's a good spot for resistance on that end. Anyway, it's definitely worth keeping your eyes on. If this thing did decide to tank and just go, which I don't think it's going to go that far to the downside, but supreme resistance somewhere around the 1882 range, and that would put it more than what it should move in a day. All right, next up, guys, PCG. That is going to be Pacific Coal and Gas, or Pacific Gas and Electric, whatever you want to call it. They're the ones that screw California on electricity. All right, we got the 50, the 20, the 9, and it did catch its breath a little bit. Then it got hammered down at the beginning of last week and kind of caught its breath a little bit. Well, and it got hammered down again now. So far hammered down, right? You have trouble believing this one. So I'm going to go ahead and mark these out just in perspective for you. This is where we was at Friday, the high of day for Friday. And this is where we're currently at, gap down, more than double headed towards zero. And do I expect a little bit of a recovery? Yeah. But man, I wish I'd have shorted this thing over the weekend, right? It can't go lower than zero, but these guys have definitely ruined this company and nobody wants anything to do with it. How bad is it? Let's go back 15 years. In 15 years, it hasn't been this bad. Right? Can't even go back further when it was at $7. 15 years ago, it was at $26. So, I don't have a metric for it. I can tell you it's not going to go below zero unless you ask somebody from California, and then they would take it to the negative infinity. It's going to be rough, right? This thing could pop back up. You could get, damn near $4 out of it if it just comes back up to the midpoint of that gap down. Which is what it followed around with last week. Or was that? No, God, that was a couple months ago. Sorry. I'm on the weekly chart now. Let me go back to the daily. Here we go. Come on. It is the morning and things are not cooperating with me. We're going to clear this off. We're going to go back and we're going to get this properly. There we go. Cooperate, I said. So on the Monday, it dropped off, then it caught its footing. Monday, dropped off, caught its footing. So yeah, this has kind of been happening. So I don't know. I'm gonna keep my eye on it. I doubt it's going to turn into the little engine that could. I think it's just going to be something that maybe catches its feet. And then last but not least, we're going to look at MU. MU's come down with all the tech stocks. Oh, come on. Come down with all the tech stocks. And it's got its foot underneath it. It came back up. But as you can see, it's hitting its ugly head on the 50. And then pre-market over the weekend, what it's been doing is selling off. So, where does that sell-off take us to? Well, let's see. So, the pre-market, if we look at the support line on this, I'll leave all this up. On the high side, resistance should not be, I mean, there we go. The 37.39, that's super resistance on the high side. I just can't see it getting that high at all. Not in one day. 36.72. That puts us at the high from Friday. 36.06 is the current pre-market low, which is the body of the candle from Friday. 35.39. That's our midpoint for the pre-markets. Pre-market low puts the resistance at around 34.75. That's where we'd have to break if she's going to drop and go. If she does break that, where's she go to? Comes down to the 34.07, $34 mark. And that's where you see her bouncing between the 20 and the 9 and catching the support from here, right? And then if that doesn't hold, the next step of resistance or support is going to be at 33.40. All the way down here, which is kind of weak, right? So if she breaks out of that, I wouldn't be surprised to see 32.73. This would be a much stronger support area. And 32.07, 32.04, 32.07, somewhere around the 32 mark down here. That's where your real solid resistance is going to be. All right, guys, that's 13 minutes. Of course, we're always going to keep our eyes on the big boys. Amazon, Tesla, Netflix, Boeing, Nvidia, Apple, Facebook, Baba. Keep your eyes on those. We're just not going to go through them. By now, you should have a good idea of what they're doing. Most of them look like they have gapped down over the weekend as well. Keep your eyes on them. And there's going to be some money made this week. Get down, girl. Sorry, my dog's getting rowdy. All right. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Let me know if you're getting anything out of the format that I'm giving this to you guys in. And I will see y'all this afternoon.